And we are honored to have with us now the President of the United States, President Barack Obama, who I feel has done an excellent job in leading this country. And Mr. President, let me say, I've been traveling a lot, both in the nonpartisan Get Out the Vote effort and then with DNC Chair Kane. There's a lot of pain out there, but there's also a lot of belief and trust in you. Would you tell people around the country why it's important to you that they come out and vote?
Well, first of all, Reverend, we appreciate you getting out there and sending the message that everybody's got to vote, regardless of what your positions are on the issues. You've got to be making sure your voice is heard in your communities. But I also think anybody who is concerned about the direction of the country has to understand that this election is just as important as 2008. Essentially, in 2008, we won the ability to start making change, and that's what we've done over the last 2 years. We inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression, and despite finding ourselves in that deep hole, we've been able to create or save 3.5 million jobs. We've been able to make sure that we're shifting billions of dollars that used to go to banks, to college scholarships and Pell Grants, to make sure our young people can go to college. We passed health care reform to make sure that folks are able to get health care if they don't have it, and are able to keep it, and not have insurance companies jerk them around if they get sick or if they have a pre-existing condition. We've been able to crack down on Wall Street. So we've made a whole range of changes that start putting us in a position to improve this economy and create jobs in infrastructure and clean energy and rebuilding our communities. But frankly, the other side is pushing back very hard.
Right.
And if we don't have strong leaders in Congress who are supportive of this agenda, who are supportive of moving the country forward, if instead we've got folks who want to move backwards to the same failed policies that got us into this mess in the first place, then it's going to be very difficult for me to keep making progress and do what folks want to see me do over the next 2 years.
So even though your name is not on the ballot, this is about your agenda and about the progress that we have seen you begin to make over the last 20-odd months.
Absolutely. I'll give you a specific example, Reverend. Right now, the main idea that the Republicans have when it comes to the economy is extending tax cuts for the wealthiest individuals, people who make $250,000 a year or more, the top 2%. And to help pay for this, they want to cut education spending by 20%.
Wow.
Which would mean essentially that we're going to take away Pell Grants and cut student loans to young people who are aspiring to go to college, to give millionaires and billionaires an average $100,000 check. That's an example of their priorities. And if they control Congress, that means that I'm going to be fighting with them day and night just to preserve the college student loans, the programs that young people are already benefiting from. And that's just one example of the kinds of choices that folks have to take real seriously in this election.
One of the things that you have, I think, courageously stepped out on is the education problem. I feel it's the civil rights issue of the 21st century. You even got Newt Gingrich and I on tour with Arnie Duncan on this. I still don't know if that was a promotion or demotion, but I'll talk about that another time. But I think that education is important, and you said they would cut 20%.
Well, if you look at their pledge to America, basically what they said is that they want to get control of spending by cutting back on programs like education that are so important to investing in our young people. And then they're going to give that money right away back to the wealthiest individuals in the form of tax cuts. That's just not good policy. And keep in mind, Reverend, you know this, China's not cutting back education by 20%. South Korea is not cutting back education by 20%. Germany, all these other countries we're competing with, they're investing in their young people. They're investing in rebuilding their infrastructure. They're investing in putting people to work on creating clean energy jobs. And the notion that we would have a backward-looking approach that would go back to just cutting taxes for millionaires and billionaires, cutting rules and regulations that make sure Wall Street banks aren't taking advantage of folks, or make sure that insurance companies aren't dropping your coverage when you get sick. That is exactly the wrong recipe for economic growth and putting people back to work over the next several years.
If I'm a person sitting in a low-income area, a person of color, and I'm impatient, and I've been the champion of impatience, you know what's going on in the country. You're the president of everyone, and you certainly tried to say to all of us, let's lower the rhetoric, let's lower the hostility, and let's get things done. What have these programs done for the average person? Because I think there are a lot of progress has been made that people don't understand how it impacts them. You are a community organizer. You know better than most how if it doesn't hit you on the ground, people don't get it.
Well, let me be real specific. Billions of dollars have poured into low-income communities in neighborhood stabilization funds that are putting people back to work, rebuilding neighborhoods block by block. And that is not only putting folks back to work, but it's creating more economically viable neighborhoods. We've got billions of dollars that have gone into helping folks keep their homes. Many of them seen foreclosure actions against them. They've been able to get loan modifications to stay in their homes. We've got billions of dollars that are going to small businesses, more likely minority and women-owned businesses, by the way, if they come through the SBA than if they're coming through banks. That means that the mom and pop store in the corner, somebody's got a good idea and wants to set up a business in our communities, they are able to finance and keep their doors open even during recession. Tax cuts. 95% of working families got a bigger paycheck. They may not have known it, but over the course of the last 2 years, because of the laws that we passed, they got a tax break that might have made the difference in terms of people being able to buy some groceries 1 month, or be able to buy a new computer for their kids, or being able to make sure that they were making their mortgage payments. So, all of these provisions that we've put in place over the last 2 years are making a big difference in the community. But that doesn't excuse the fact that we've still got a long way to go. The economic recession we went through was something none of us had seen in our lifetimes, unless you're 90 or 100. And so we lost 4 million jobs before I was sworn in. We lost another 4 million in the first few months I was in office. We had a complete nosedive when it comes to the economy. And so digging ourselves out of this hole is going to take some time. And understandably, people feel frustrated and impatient. I feel impatient about it. But the question is, are we going to make sure that we continue on the progress that we're on, or do we go back to the policies that got us into this mess in the first place?
I know you're having conference call with leaders tonight and all areas. Your encouragement to people is to get out and vote, to continue the progress that we have began after the election and the acrimony and all that we're seeing that you've tried to discourage and chastise many of us that are in your party. How do we bring the country back together around education, around jobs, and around the things that you've tried to remain on the high road toward?
Well, look, I think that this has been a fierce election. We made a lot of changes that some of the big special interests didn't like around the country. They're spending millions of dollars trying to roll back that agenda. I think after the election, everybody can take a deep breath and recognize that we're all going to have to work together to move forward. And I think I'll give you one example, Reverend, where we should be able to make progress. We used to have the best infrastructure in the world. Now, our roads, our bridges, our sewer lines, our gas lines, our airports are all, really getting old. And we don't have always the best infrastructure as we used to. Putting people to work right now, training young people in communities all across the country to be apprentices and to work on construction sites, rebuilding schools, rebuilding roads. We could transform the country, and we could find sensible ways of paying for it that would have huge long-term economic benefits, would put people back to work right away. Traditionally, Republicans have supported infrastructure spending. It's just like roof on your house or buying a new boiler, when it's about to break down, that's a good investment over the long term. It's something we should be doing. And my hope is that those kinds of issues are ones that folks are willing to work with us on.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for taking time to talk with us, and we will keep encouraging people to exercise their right to vote. And I think you said, yes, we can, not yes, I can, and that meant we, all Americans. You're certainly doing your part. I hope all Americans do theirs.
You couldn't say it better, Al. Just that I want to remind everybody that the election is on the second, but a lot of your listeners may live in places where there's early voting. And if you've got early vote, take advantage of it now. Go out there and, usually you can find out where to vote through the internet. You can go to a website called raiseyourvote.com, which tells you where you can vote. And a lot of times now with early vote, you can do it on a weekend. You can do it at your own convenience. But the key is to make sure everybody understands this election is important. My name may not be on the ballot, but our agenda for moving forward is on the ballot, and I need everybody to turn out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.